And we're live. Hello, everyone. How are we all doing? Welcome to my post-race Chinwag that I do after every race this year. That's the kind of plan on a Monday. We have a little chat about what happened live, of course, just because it's nice to have a chat. This kind of content I feel like suits the live format a bit better than making a video, if you ask me. So hello, everyone. Hello, Joshua. Hello, Ben Crook. I am here. I was literally on 15 minutes past, okay? Hello, Liam Payne. That means Cheryl Cole fancies me, so I can deal with that. Drew Seth, Becca, Martin, Brian, Winchy. Good to see you, Winchy. Rachel, Gumball, Jacobs, Sajana. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are going to talk all things Belgian Grand Prix from yesterday. Thank you all for joining in. What I will quickly do before we actually kick off, give a little share on the old Twitter. Just to, get a few more people over. From the old Twitter. So give me 2 minutes. And we're live. It's lights out and away we go. Boom. Hang on. Paste. Lovely. Cool. So, Winchy, you've joined Friends of Tomo. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. You're very, very kind. Very kind. So, what did we think? What did we think yesterday? What did we think? Why do I call it a chinwag? Well, chinwag's just kind of like a slang term from the part of the world that I'm from, for conversation. If you're having a chinwag with someone, just having a little chat, little like low key, not too formal, just a nice little conversation. Thank you also SSG Scorch. Did I get that wrong? I apologise for joining Friends of Tomo as well. £2 a month, Bosh, lovely, job done. Thank you very much. 340 of you here now, and slowly rising. Well, let's first of all jump on the old, what I'm looking at, race recap result. And there we go. I organised these assets earlier. For some reason on Streamlabs, I can't drag images onto Streamlabs anymore for some reason, as new sources. So if anyone knows why that's changed, because it's a pain in the bum, if I'm honest. But anyway, they're the results. I've just put top 10 up there. Got my driver of the day, Daniel Ricciardo, and my L of the day, Antonio Giovinazzi. Obviously, we'll talk about all of this in a minute. We've got plenty to go through today. So first of all, obviously, look, it was an emotional weekend for everyone. Obviously, what happened last year with Antoine. And the race, I feel like, Pierre got driver of the day. Obviously, a lot of it was to do with, it was a particularly significant weekend for him, but I think on track, he was unreal. For me, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, Pierre Gasly is my driver of the year so far. He's been absolutely smashing it in that AlphaTauri. Mate, he's been killing it. He's been doing such a good job. Credit where credit's due to Pierre. He did so well to recover to where he did, because if it wasn't for the safety car, as I've seen a few mention in chat already, he'd have been a lot higher up the order if there was no safety car. That didn't really do him any favours. But Pierre deserves a lot of respect for that performance that he put in yesterday. But we'll get into all that. And also, thank you, Cap, for joining Friends of Tomo. I appreciate that, buddy. But the race itself, it wasn't great. There was some all right moments throughout. But I mean, the F2 was a lot more interesting for sure, as it has consistently been this year, to be fair. It really has. What's going on? Oh, I've got a hole in the back of it. Lovely. So obviously Lewis took it home in P1, goes without saying. Valtteri P2. We'll talk more about Valtteri in a minute. Again, P2 on the face of it is kind of where you expect him to be. Verstappen P3. That top three is just copy and paste every race. You can pretty much slap that on and there's a 75% chance you'll be correct. What is LOTD? Just loser of the day. Driver of the day, loser of the day. Like, I don't call someone a loser is harsh, but the acronym LOTD, like loss of the day. So worst performance. But anyway, Ricciardo P4, mate. Ricciardo's on it. That was such a sick performance. Like, that Renault pace in practice was not, like, we were all like, is it a real reflection of how they'll actually do? And it was. Esteban P5. I think all in all, the Renault's just quality performance. Albon P6. I'm an Albon fan, so it was a shame to see Ocon get past him at the end. But again, I think there's a multitude of factors. It's definitely better from Alex. I feel like he's moving in the right direction slowly, and I think he will get the time. But again, we'll talk more about that in a minute. Norris P7. Again, if he'd have had an extra lap, he would have definitely caught Alex as well. His tyres were in a much better place than Alex's were. And all in all, I think that's a very solid performance from Lando. I was, P10 in qualifying, and he's had a few of them this year where he's only just squeezed through to Q3. But in race trim, doing bits. Gasly P8, I've already mentioned him. And then Stroll P9, Perez P10, the racing points. I mean, expected them to be higher. But again, we'll get more into that. So, and like I say, Daniel Ricciardo, driver of the day for me. And Antonio Giovinazzi took the biggest L of the day. So I should change that to TTBLOTD. But I'm not gonna, because that's stupid. L of the day, Antonio Giovinazzi. So anyway, let's have a little look in chat first and foremost. See what people are saying. Racing disappoint indeed. But anyway, let's go to my little breakdown. I usually have these as all separate bits, but because of Streamlabs being weird, I just was like, sod it, we'll just put it all up. So obviously Charles. I keep reading that as Charles, but it's Carlos. It's clearly Carlos that I've written down there. Carlos Sainz didn't even make it onto the grid. I feel like Carlos has had some actually, to be fair, like, luck seemed to be with him when he needed it last year. And I'm not saying he got his position in the championship because he was lucky at all, but he did also have pretty good luck when he needed it, especially relative to his teammate Lando. But, mate, for him to not even make the grid and then sit there and watch Ferrari finish behind the Alfa Romeo of Kimi Räikkönen, which again we will talk about more later. But Carlos, what's he thinking? What's he thinking right now? If you're Carlos Sainz, what are you thinking? Because you go into a team that Ferrari aren't gonna switch this 180 because the cars next year are going to be pretty much the same as the cars this year. Okay, we know that's not going to happen. Obviously, from 22 onwards, Ferrari will hopefully actually pull their finger out and develop a decent car with these new regulations, right? That's the opportunity there. But Carlos has got to be... He knows that next year is going to be a struggle in the bottom of the midfield. Maybe they'll come on a bit in the midfield, but I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it. I see the progression from Renault, McLaren, even like AlphaTauri. That car seems to be hooked up, especially in Pierre's hands. So I think Carlos has got to be worried, isn't he? He's got to be worried for a whole different set of reasons. But look, hopefully he's looking long term. And at the end of the day, I mean, I'm sure Carlos has absolutely secured the bag by going to Ferrari. So it's not the end of the world. Not that, obviously, it's still not what he wants. Ferrari's to be way behind the McLarens. But all in all, poor Carlos, man. I do feel for him. He deserves a solid car. I think Carlos is a very talented driver. And I think 2022... that'll be his time to shine, because I'm confident Ferrari have no excuses not to produce a banging racing car for 22 because they've got all the resources in the world. Yes, I know the cap's coming in, but you know what I mean. The resources of a big team like Ferrari. There's no excuses anymore, Matteo. There's no excuses, my spectacle-wearing friend. Anyway, Bottas. Let's talk about Valtteri. So I've watched that start back a few times. People were saying Bottas bottled it, or, you know, Lewis played it really well. Again, to sit on the fence, but looking at it, I've looked at Valtteri's onboard. So basically, you go through the first corner, and Valtteri's got a pretty good run on Lewis. And then Lewis kind of like parks it in the middle of the track, and Valtteri's gaining, and I think Lewis knows that he's gaining, and Lewis plays it very well. And from what I've heard as well, he did this to Vettel a few years back, Lewis, very effectively, where just as you come up to Eau Rouge, before you reach Eau Rouge, if you just come off the gas a little bit, and you get your elbows out, you don't give the driver behind anywhere to go. They have to lift off, lose momentum, and then as soon as they're, you know, because Lewis has obviously lifted off first, then Valtteri lifts off, and by the time Valtteri's lifting off, Lewis has got his foot down again, and just that minor little differentiation there means Lewis was able to pull away, and Max was right up Valtteri's chuff going through Radion. The Mercedes power ended up, you know, keeping him safe, and Ricciardo on Verstappen was actually like, that gave Max something totally different to think about. So actually Valtteri was okay for his second place, but that meant Lewis was way up the track. And I think, like, for me, yes, Valtteri should have seen it coming and maybe could have done things differently. It's very easy to say that when you're not driving, you know, 250 kilometers an hour into Eau Rouge. Oh, Valtteri didn't do. I think Valtteri could have, you know, if he could replay that, he'd do it differently, and he probably could have got if he'd been more aggressive, he could have got alongside Lewis. But he needs to be more aggressive. He needs to be like, that's the kind of move. When Nico was Lewis's teammate, Nico would have probably gone alongside, and you know what, it could have taken them both out. But having that attitude towards winning and not just being too, I don't know, like that's for me what's going to prevent Bottas taking championships. You know what I mean? He's a talented driver over one lap, Valtteri, on his day, but he hasn't got that absolute, you know, determination, that grit to get in there when needed. So I do think, in that instance, I will give Lewis more credit than I will take away from Valtteri. But at the same time, Valtteri should have thrown it up one of the sides, because he could have, if he really wanted to, he could have. But there you go. Anyway, and I mentioned Max and Daniel because again, Daniel kind of saved Bottas there, because Max would have been, you know, much more aggressive on Bottas into the whatever the corners are after the Kemmel Straight. I don't know corner names. I just forget. And mate, that was a tasty little battle there at the start. Obviously, it's a shame we didn't have it for a bit longer. But Ricciardo wasn't messing about, man, and it was good to see, like, them two battling again, and it was fair. Like, it was on the edge, but it was fair. It's great to see, and like, as a sign of things to come going forward. And again, like, look, we can't all jump to the fact that, oh God, now Renault are like amazing, and yes, they did an amazing job this weekend, but let's not jump to the conclusions too early. But regardless, Daniel's getting everything out of that car. Esteban, you can tell Esteban's not quite at Daniel's level of comfort in the car and not able to extract quite as much as Daniel is. But that gap isn't as big as the gap between. Well, it's definitely not as big as the gap between Albon and Verstappen. But obviously, we know it. We know in part why that's the case. It's not. I don't think it's as big as the gap between Kvyat and Gasly. I think Ocon's doing a good job, and I think he's coming good, and he's getting there. Oh, thank you, Darren Turbill, for the £2, buddy. Much appreciated. Grazie ragazzi. And yeah, look, all in all, I think I rate Daniel. I think Daniel's top 4 drivers on the grid. I really do. I think he's, and again, we are now looking back at his time at Red Bull and looking at how Gasly struggled there. Now Alex is struggling, and we took for granted how good of a job Daniel did. He got 7 wins in that Red Bull, didn't he? We really took that for granted, and I think he's different gravy, Daniel Ricciardo. He's a very, very good driver, and we've got a fair few years of him left. And I hope for him that McLaren are able to deliver a banging little car for 2022. With Andreas Seidel in charge, I think it's they're very capable. Drop my other battery. Great work there, Tommy. But yeah, it's good to see Daniel doing well. It's good to see him smile and sounding so happy on the team radio after the race, because he's not had the best of it. But that was a banging result for him, and that'll do a lot for their confidence. So fair play. As for Max, I mean, he said he was bored after the race. I mean, I understand he's kind of in that uncanny valley between, you know, the Mercedes and the rest. And Max is just unreal, man. Like how he's able to keep up with those Mercedes in a car that isn't as good as the Mercedes is just, you know, he shouldn't be that close to Bottas, yet he is. Max is so good. He's so good, and that can't be underestimated. He really is. Oh, thank you for the £2 Raiders. Very kind, mate. Appreciate that. I miss Danny on the podium. Mate, that'll be... I reckon Danny will get a podium this year. I reckon Monza... We'll talk about that in a minute. I think Monza, I think Bahrain out at Oval, that Renault, they've low-key developed an absolute monster there, and I think he's got a great chance. But anyway, let's talk about Ferrari. Well, look, I've said Charles rise and fall here on the screen. And yeah, Charles had a great start, didn't he? And it looked so promising at the beginning. I was like, right, like fair play, Charles. And that's him. That's him making these moves. You know, I don't want to make this Charles versus Sebastian thing, but Charles went from what? So they were 12 and 13, right? Charles was 12. Vettel was P13, qualified. Charles was up to P9, maybe even P8, I can't remember. I think it was at least P9 and Seb hadn't moved position. And, you know, that's not to take anything away from Seb. That's to give Charles credit. Because, man, he was making moves at the start. I mean, K-Mag made up 5 positions at the start as well. So that was impressive. And then the car pace just caught up with him. Honestly, all right, I'm just looking. So Kimi, I'll have a little rant about Ferrari later on. We'll save that. I'll focus on Charles for this because, yeah, Charles had such a good start, and then just the pace of that Ferrari, or lack of, caught up with him. You can't expect him to keep that going for too long when there's cars around him that are clearly much quicker than the Ferrari. And when he came into that was so funny, man. When it was like, why are we coming into the pits? We tell you in a minute. We're not sure. We tell you in a minute. I was like, you clearly know why you brought him in. Why don't you just... Why not tell him? Or maybe they don't know why they brought him in. That's mad. But also, like, I could see that happening. It's insane to me. I don't know, man. This is their golden boy. This is their 5-year contract, geezer, and they're like not telling him why they're... I don't know, man. The situation at Ferrari is a joke. But again, specific to Charles, I think Charles is doing as much as he can. I think, you know, he was on the podium in Austria. I don't think we'll be seeing many more top 6 finishes from either of the Ferrari boys. I really don't. I don't see it improving. I see Ferrari consolidating. But then you've got Monza and Mugello and Imola. I feel for you Ferrari fans out there. I really do, because it's like... This is like... You remember like when Man United were quality under Fergie, and then he left, and then they were terrible. It's like... Actually, I didn't feel sorry for United because, yeah, I don't care about Man United. But I like all the F1 teams. So I want to see Ferrari back at the top because it's good for the sport. It's not good to just have Mercedes challenging all the time. And yes, Winchy, like you say, fans at Mugello as well. 1,000th race for Ferrari. And they could... Because Mugello's a speed track as well. So, wow. Yeah, man. It's not good. It's not good for Ferrari, but again, we'll moan about them more in a bit. Obviously, Gio and George had a crash. I mean, fuck, I don't know about you lot, but when I first saw that, I was like, rah, that looks like a huge accident. And I'm glad the feed cut to the drivers getting out of the car pretty quick, because that was a nervy few seconds. But I put this in, and the reason, again, I put if we just jump back to my, where's my cursor gone? There we go. If I jump back to my race recap, I put Giovinazzi as my L of the day. Took the L of the day. And I think, Giovinazzi's position is under threat. Absolutely. Like, I think he's the driver I'd be most surprised of any of the 20 drivers, even more than Romain Grosjean, if he retains his seat for next year, because you've got Schwartzman, you've got Eilert, you've got Schumacher, you've got a lot of very talented Ferrari driver academy lads. Marcus Armstrong's not having a good season, but I still think Marcus Armstrong's got ability as well. You know what I mean? He smashed it in F3 last year. He's not had a good one this year. I think even before this race, I was like, I think Giovinazzi's like, he's just not at that level. He did all right in quali. Okay in quali. He was like P17. He was still behind Kimi, but ahead of Magnussen. But then Magnussen made a mistake. Ahead of Latifi. Is that much to write home about? As I talk about it, probably not a great qualifying. But that Alfa Romeo is poor. We know that. We know it's not a good car. Even though Kimi overtook both Ferraris in there. But anyway, and where there's so much strong Ferrari talent coming through the ranks, I think Joe's, and I feel like that was the final nail in the coffin. It's sad. I don't want to see drivers doing bad. There's not a single driver I dislike. Like, I want to see everyone doing well, but objectively, looking at the talent coming through, looking at the situation, Giovinazzi's not keeping that seat. And again, he just binned it by himself. It wasn't a racing incident. You see something like that happen, you think, okay, if they tangled under, having a battle or something, he just bins it on his own. And, I don't see, with the talent coming through, how he's going to be able to keep that seat next year. So, sad times. But obviously, the main thing, the drivers are both all right. I think George was unlucky. It's mad, though, because I feel like, so wheel tethers are meant to keep the wheels on the car. And when K-Mag had the accident, when he had the tangle with Albon at Silverstone, he lost, like, 2 of his wheels flew off. Now, Giovinazzi's had an incident with a wheel falling off and making a beeline for George's head. I think he would have been okay. It hit his wheel directly, and he didn't hit the halo. But I mean, because that quite easily, if it was a different situation, right, no halo and the wheel's slightly higher, that's taking George's head off. Like, genuinely, it is. And wheel tethers are meant to. I feel like that needs to be looked into, because I remember when that happened with K-Mag, and there was talk about, this is like really unlucky, because they've got like 4 connections, I think, for each wheel. I think I watched Chain Bear did a video on it, I think. But that fact that it's happened again, and that was really dangerous. Even with a halo, that's still really dangerous. I mean, that's a whole wheel and the suspension link. And I guess maybe that's why the tether didn't work, because it was the whole bit of suspension. I don't know, man. I remember when was it? Surtees' grandson at Brands Hatch was killed by a wheel. Driver in front had a crash and the wheel bounced along, and it looked so innocuous, and it just hit him right on the head, straight ahead. So, you know what I mean? Like, again, we know from last year that Spa can be a dangerous place, as can all racetracks. You know what I mean? They need to take it seriously, and I don't know, man. I feel that needs to be looked into. But anyway, Racing Point. Let's talk about Racing Point, because going into this weekend, I was expecting top 5 quali at least from Racing Point, and solid points for both drivers. Mercedes power unit, Racing Point have always done well, even in the Force India days at Spa. They clearly know how to make a car quick on that track. But yeah, really weird one from Perez. Like, they kept him out on top. It was like a Haas. Oh, hello, Josh. Good to see you, mate. It was it was a weird one seeing, like, them keeping him out on softs. I don't know whether they went for, like, Gunter Steiner strategy. Just leave him out on track and see what happens. And did it work? No. I mean, he recovered quite well, but not pitting. If Perez had pitted under that safety car, he still managed to recover to P10 and was only half a second behind Stroll. Perez could have been knocking on the door as well, for like a 6th, 7th, 8th finish. But yeah, it was just all in all a bit of a disappointment. Like, Stroll was very disappointed post race. Sounded pretty down about the whole situation. Yeah, I expected more from Racing Point that race. But that's the interesting thing. That's what I like about this whole battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, maybe even 7th, if you can include AlphaTauri there, because Gasly's certainly getting performance out of that car. I don't think the AlphaTauri is quite at the level of those other three, but that battle's going to be so good going forward, because you've got, like, Racing Point with a very strong start, but have had a few wobbles. Ferrari, who had a all right start, a lot of wobbles. Like, Ferrari could... McLaren had a very good start and actually have kind of continued it. But again, Carlos not getting any points this weekend. That's a huge points hit. And then Renault, who had quite a poor start, but now seem to be, there's a lot of tracks we're looking at going forward now and thinking Renault's going to be up there. I think I want to see more from Kvyat. I still think Kvyat's under-delivering in the AlphaTauri, as well as Gasly is doing. It feels like Kvyat's kind of gone down as Gasly's improved, and that gap's just got really big. But man, we could be looking at Ferrari P7 in the constructors. If Ferrari keep on not scoring any points and Gasly keeps punching in top 10s with Kvyat with the odd top 10, imagine. So let's talk about Kimi first of all, because Kimi, low key, great performance in that Alfa Romeo. That's not a quick car. Yeah, he overtook Seb. He was ahead of Charles. I mean, Charles did the extra pit stop, didn't he? I can't even remember. But all in all, Kimi can be very happy with that result. And Alfa Romeo beating a customer beating the Ferrari on track. Mad. It's like that Ferrari. Like, this point is more about Ferrari. Like, we'll go into Ferrari rant mode, right? Here we go. That Ferrari chassis must be, and cover your ears if you don't like swearing, fucking shit. Because honestly, it's mad. Like, they've gone from pole position at a track, that's Spa last year, and they're so far. They've lost like 1.2 seconds. And they're beaten by an Alfa Romeo on track, on merit. That Ferrari chassis must be crap. They've been... the way I see it is that Ferrari have been like... They've obviously had this engine trickery that's been going on for at least last season, possibly a bit longer. We'll never know. And they've been... They've had such a good engine that they've just been like, cool. The chassis, that'll do. That's all right. We've got this insane power plant in the front of the car, or back of the car. So, it's fine. It's fine. We're good. And then all of a sudden, no, FIA, walking over. Sorry, Ferrari. Let's come to a private agreement that we won't talk to anyone about. But I'm afraid that engine is now nerfed. And all of a sudden, they're getting sussed out because they've got the weakest engine. I think that's clear as day. Because... you don't think of the Honda as being a particularly fast down the straights, but again, Max was keeping pace with the Mercedes and Pierre was pulling overtakes on the Racing Points in a Honda-powered car versus Mercedes, let alone Ferrari. I mean, fucking hell. The downfall. I don't know when there's been a downfall as significant as this. In the last time there was a downfall as significant as this. Over the course, like, Ferrari haven't always been successful. They've produced some duds back in the day, of course, but just like that, and we don't even know the details because they won't tell us, and that's insane. Ferrari saying, oh, it's to protect our intellectual property. Well, that IP ain't doing you much good, is it, Mattia? Because it's mad. The downfall is crazy. I mean, it probably doesn't help that Ferrari front nose is about as wide as this desk. It's like the Ferrari is, especially without the Mission Winnow branding, that Ferrari front nose is not pretty. It's very, very thick. Very thick. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's... I feel for Seb. I feel for Charles. There seems to be a la 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 la. Everything's fine. Everything's good. It's all good from Ferrari. At least just own it. I'm not like, if I was in Mattia's position, I'd be like, yeah, look, we're crap. We know we're not in a good position. This is a really challenging time. And just take a bit more responsibility, I feel, for why things are so dead at the minute for the team, man. And also, well, outside of this, I want to talk. I was thinking about doing a video on it, but there's not really enough information, so I'll just talk about it on here. Why we still haven't... Oh, Guy Aldridge. Hello, mate. Another £2. You're too good to me, Guy. Grealish got a call. Well, he's actually got a call up. Because he wasn't on there, was he? Have they replaced Maguire with Grealish? Yikes. Thank you, Guy, man. I appreciate it. But yeah, the whole Mission Winnow thing. So, from my understanding, I've done a bit of reading into it. Again, there's not enough information out there for me to really merit doing a video. But what appears to have happened, because again, Ferrari last year, and for as long as they've run Mission Winnow, and again, if you don't know who Mission Winnow are, Philip Morris, who own the sponsorship. So it's funny, Ferrari don't own the sponsors on their car. They don't own that. Philip Morris own the billboard that is the Ferrari. It's weird. It's strange. But obviously, Philip Morris, Marlboro, that's a Philip Morris brand. And obviously that relationship's been big for a long time. And Mission Winnow is Philip Morris's new kind of, and it is it's Mission Winnow, not Mission Win Now. Yes, I know it says WINNOW, but it's pronounced Winnow. Okay, I've checked this. It's definitely Winnow. Winnow. Anyway, so basically they're the front for Philip Morris that are like, we're going to change that. It's just loads of marketing wank. Basically, the jargon is just a joke. If you go on their socials, I ain't got time for it. It's just that you can clearly see they're trying to like hide what they're doing. But anyway, McLaren have that to an extent as well, with A Better Tomorrow, which is a British American tobacco equivalent to that. But the difference with McLaren is that they actually have, vape brands they put on the car, or like that Velo is like a pocket nicotine pouch thing. So it's not smoking, but it's still an addictive substance, but whatever. And then, but Ferrari have never, used this Mission Winnow thing to actually promote any real alternatives to smoking. And then the Italian, I can't remember the name. I think I've got some notes somewhere, but basically there's an Italian consumer rights group, who obviously represent the people of Italy and marketing and, whole like holding brands to account in terms of their marketing practices. And I think they're pursuing legal action against Mission Winnow or Ferrari. I can't remember. But basically it's now gone to the courts, from my understanding, as to whether they are breaking the law in Italy, Mission Winnow. And I guess we'll see where things go. So it looks like at the moment they've removed it because, like Jason has mentioned in the chat, they've never had it in Australia, but that's because Australia's laws against tobacco advertisement is way more strict. So they're just straight away, no, piss off. Like, you're a Philip Morris brand, no, not going to be on the car. But then in other races, in other parts of the world, it's been fine. But so far this season, we're 7 races in, and at races where it has appeared in previous years, it has not appeared in any of the races this year, and doesn't look likely to, even at the venues where it has in the past. So that tells me that this is more than just individual governments clamping down on it. This is more of a they're actually kind of going through the courts, and they could get royally fucked. But we'll see. It's actually because I thought that car looked really nice with the Mission Winnow branding. I know that's a very aesthetic. This is a genuine issue, right, about consumer rights, and I'm like, oh, but it looked pretty. But it did. It looked nice with the black. It looks like a much more boring car without it. But anyway, Ferrari just basically, the moral of the story is Ferrari are just taking L's. They're basically Rich Energy Haas. They've taken that mantle, be like, okay, we'll have the dodgy sponsor and we'll have the rubbish car. We'll take that off your hands, Haas. Not that Haas are exactly doing great at the minute, but at least they've got a pretty car now. Although I will say, actually, the Haas is no longer my number 1 livery on the grid, because it was. It's number 2 now. That Renault is just fit. That Renault is beautiful, especially from like the front angles. Oh, that Renault is gorgeous. So Renault's my number 1 livery now. It's what I've warmed to it. That thinner nose is just yes please. Anyway, talking of Renault power again. Obviously, I've mentioned this already. We're going to Monza. Renault have low key been doing bits with their engine. Clearly they've made progression. And we haven't really talked about it because, Honda are the new team. Mercedes, we all know how good their engine is, and we know how bad the Ferrari engine is. But yeah, like Renault, fair play Renault, and the noises that they're making is like they're determined to stick with F1 going forward. And I think if I'm Fernando Alonso, I'm salivating, mate. I'm there like, it's actually a decent little car you're going to give me. Decent little car to start with, because yeah, again, they're a manufacturer. They're on a positive trajectory. Again, we've got, you look at Monza, you look at Mugello, you look at Bahrain Outer, these power tracks, and they've got, Lando was saying, they've got good low speed grip as well. I think Renault could be a dark horse for P3 in the championship. I really do. And again, don't jump to conclusions, because they had a very good weekend this weekend. They had quite a poor weekend last weekend where they didn't score any points, as far as I remember. But the weekend before that, they did quite well. So it has to work. I'm sure, they'll have strengths and weaknesses, but I do think that Renault are in a very good place. And Renault power, will McLaren be regretting it? They're moving to Mercedes. Imagine if McLaren were moving to Ferrari engines and then all this happened. I mean, that would be hilarious. But they're not. They're going to Mercedes. We know the Mercedes is a good engine. Is it better than the Renault? Yeah, it probably still is fractionally, but they're definitely the 2 top engines, I feel now. Honda sounds... Actually, no. I don't know what engine... Let me know, everyone, what engine sounds the best. Oh, yeah, I did miss the... sorry, I will talk about Pierre. I missed the Gasly segment. My bad. You know how much I love Gasly. But anyway, yeah, what engine sounds the best? Let me know in the live chat. Because for me, it's between the Honda in the Red Bull and the Renault in the Renault. Because that Renault sounds like... It sounds like almost a bit Formula E-esque, which I don't like the sound of Formula E, but you know what I mean? Because it sounds very like... I don't know. It sounds like... Oh, what that sound was. I don't know. It sounds like very metallic and very like Android, and I don't know. It sounds really cool. I like that sound. And then the Honda in the Red Bull just sounds proper raspy. It sounds like a go-kart engine. I love that. But yeah, the Renault does sound sick, to be fair. There's love for all engines here in the chat. I like to see that. There's a love for a lot of different engines. Honda when VTEC kicks in. Now they're producing a solid, and again, Renault have done bits, so fair play to them. Let's jump back to Gasly. Gasly making moves. Gasly making move again. Like he got shafted by the safety car. If that hadn't have happened, you could have been looking at a much better result for him, and thoroughly deserved in a car that shouldn't be competing really with your McLarens, your Racing Points, your Renaults, your Ferraris, but he's putting it there. Gasly, man. Gasly. I've said it before. I said it in my Gasly Ocon video. Say it again. Gasly, he's decent. He's so good. He's so good right now. But should he go back to Red Bull? Fucking no. No, man. Because the problem is, Gasly was solid before he went to Renault. Before he went to Red Bull, when he was at Toro Rosso initially. He was really good. And then you put him in a different car that he's not comfortable in. And we all saw what happened. The results were consistently poor. Because the problem is if he makes that move again and the same thing happens, what's that going to do for his confidence? What's that going to... no. I've said... Right, this is my opinion on the Red Bull. The reason that Gasly and Albon haven't been able to perform in that Red Bull is because the ceiling for the Red Bull is almost as high as the Mercedes. Okay? A bit lower. But in order to get the most out of the Red Bull, it's a much more difficult and much more... Not even difficult. You need a real certain type of driving style that Max clearly has to maximise, to get to that ceiling in that Red Bull. Whereas in a car like a Mercedes, which is, doesn't have the high rake, seems a much more stable car. I mean, everyone always comments on just how stable that Mercedes looks going through corners, where the Red Bull's much more edgy. I feel like way more drivers could get close to that ceiling than any other drivers could going into the Red Bull. And I think Max Verstappen's best teammate is someone who has a similar driving style to him. And I don't really know who that is. Because you stick someone with a really smooth driving style into that Red Bull and they're going to have a bad time. And again, a really good driver can be undone by a car that doesn't fit them. And Pierre's time at Red Bull was not representative. Clearly, it wasn't representative of how good he is, because he's in a car now that he's super comfortable in, and that's what's even more mad, because Red Bull had all that data from Toro Rosso on how to make a car that suits Pierre Gasly, yet they still couldn't do it. There still wasn't that marriage there, and also one thing as well. Look, listen, me, you watching, we ain't got a clue what actually goes on behind the scenes, right? There's so much more to it than just the race day. There's how do they get along with a team? How do they feel within themselves? These people are only humans. Sebastian Vettel is clearly, he's clearly got so much more to give, but he's in a team that he doesn't feel loved in, and in a car that just doesn't suit him, and it's resulting in him finishing, bottom of FP3 and P14 in the race or whatever he was. There's so much more to it. So, yeah, I think Gasly's different gravy. He needs to get out of the Red Bull family if he wants to progress. I think Pierre needs to stay in AlphaTauri, because I think AlphaTauri will always want one driver who's a bit more experienced to help the junior that comes in alongside. So Yuki Tsunoda's looking like probably the most likely to get that seat next year from Kvyat. And then for Tsunoda to race alongside Gasly, I think would be great for Yuki. It keeps Gasly in F1. Gasly still keeps performing, bringing in good points for AlphaTauri. And, you know what I mean? I feel like that ticks all the boxes until a seat opens up itself, whether that's Alonso does 2 years at Renault and then that seat becomes available, whether at McLaren things don't work out with Ricciardo or Norris going forward, or one of them gets, I feel like as time goes on there's a chance that one of them could get snapped up and a door could potentially open to a driver like Pierre Gasly. He's still very young, he's still what, like 25, 26, Pierre? I don't even know. Maybe even younger. And yeah, I think like, look, listen, I don't think Pierre needs to make any sudden movements. I think just stick with AlphaTauri for as long as you can in a car that you clearly really like driving and clearly can get a lot out of and have great battles, and just keep putting yourself there, because once a door opens at a slightly bigger team, then they're going to want you. They're going to want you, mate, because you're clearly different gravy. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. That's my thoughts. So yeah, I think Pierre will keep that seat and Tsunoda will get numero dos. But anyway, let's talk about Lewis. Come on. We do take, listen, we all, you know, I remember distinctly back when Seb was dominating 4 world titles in a row, and people hated him for it. I remember the comments that people would make. I remember the coverage. Oh, thank you, Mechanic Cookie. The position at Red Bull isn't to be a second driver, it's to be Max's teammate. Poor Pierre and poor Alex. Great content, mate. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, they need, I think, again, like Mark Webber. Picked up a few wins. He wasn't like right up there with Seb, but he did that second driver role really well, actually, looking back on it, as did Ricciardo. So yeah, I think it's a tricky one at Red Bull at the minute, but thank you for the donation, mate. I appreciate it. But yeah, so Lewis, again, that quali lap was insane. Like, he just checked out up front like he does. Again, it's I remember the times when Seb used to get similar levels of hate that Lewis does because he just wins every week and it's boring. And it is a bit boring. Like, and I remember Lewis was quite vocal about, oh, it's not good for the sport that one driver's winning all the time. And then what happens? Lewis then starts to become that driver who wins all the time. But you can't take it away from Mercedes. Like, as long as they're operating within the rules, which they appear to be, then credit where credit's due to Mercedes, credit where credit's due to Lewis for actually extracting those wins and doing it week in, week out. Because, again, Valtteri's in that car and he's not doing it week in, week out relative to Max. Even though they're in a car that is the better package, like, objectively. So I just think, like, I think Lewis is never going to get the appreciation I feel that he deserves until he retires. But I think that's the case a lot. Like, you know, back when you had the likes of, you know, well, I always talk about Prost. When Prost was racing, he didn't get the love he deserves, and I still don't think he does, to be fair. But he likes some Mansells, you know, Senna's, even Schumacher's. When Schumacher was dominating, people were like, oh, this is so boring. It's just Michael Schumacher winning every week. And now we all look back so fondly on those times. But that's just human nature. You know what I mean? So, yeah, he's just so good. He's so good. And I see him being in F1 for years to come. Do I think, I saw someone in chat say Russell for that second seat. I think Valtteri is a solid second driver, but also they won't want to let George get away from him. And George is going to be knocking on that door. Come on, Toto, let me in, son. Let me in, right? And I think I definitely think they'd make that swap. Bottas to Williams, I mean, hopefully Williams recover, and then Bottas would be a great driver to have at Williams. He's driven there before. Obviously, with the new investment in Williams, like, I think that could work as a swap deal if Williams improve. Obviously, Bottas wouldn't be particularly happy about it, but better that than no seat. And I feel like Williams could hopefully be on a positive trajectory going forward, and be fighting with the midfield and obviously, look, listen, we don't know. 2022. It's hard for me to. I don't see Haas being up there in 2022 in terms of up in the fight at all. And probably not Sauber, Alfa Romeo, whatever you want to call them. But everyone else, I think, will be in for the fight in the midfield with the new regulations. But that's just my fault. All right, Monza next week. I've been chatting for a while now. 50 minutes. Bloody hell, Tomo. Monza next week. Power track. Ferrari. Not good. Renault. Good. Mercedes, good. Honda, all right. I mean, if both Ferraris get out of Q2, I will be very surprised. It's going to be it's a long season for Ferrari fans out there. A long season. Hopefully, Ricciardo podium. That would be sick. Or a knock-on podium. Either way. I mean, I love Danny Rick, so I want to see Danny Rick do well. Because I love it. He's such a just a lovely guy. But I don't think there's no hope for Ferrari. I think. But the problem is, it's like this will be such an embarrassing period where they go to Mugello. They own Mugello, Ferrari. They own Mugello. So you would think that for Mugello they can maybe put some like razor blades just that can pop up under the Mercedes maybe, or just do some shenanigans that will mess with the race and give them a chance for at least points, because it's not in a good place. I think the whole team has to take responsibility. Obviously from a technical point of view, Ferrari are rubbish, but also you had Charles and Seb crashing into each other, having a bunch of incidents last year which didn't help the cause. It's just a shit show, isn't it? But yeah, I think I'm pretty much done. I'm just gonna have a look through some comments. Bottas is not championship material. Kind of agree there. Want to see Shuey? Absolutely. Don't we all? Oh my god, that fan cam with that Verstappen fan doing the Shuey. I can't. I mean, imagine sending your clip in, right? And seeing your face, you pop up and you're like, oh, that's me. And you're there for like a few seconds. And then it's still on him. And then it's still on him. And then it's zooming in on him. And then it's still on him. And I'm like, okay. Race director, that's a bit much. I know there's no one in the crowd, right? But it's just an empty bit of track with some geezer drinking out of his... Not even drinking out of his shoe, pretending to drink out of his shit. Oh, it's weird. The fake cam... The fan cams are just a bit dead. But there you go. So, yeah, I'm going to... I think 52 minutes is enough. I don't want this to get to an hour. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Appreciate you all taking the time. And new video out on Wednesday. I need to finish the edit of that, so I'm going to crack on with that after this, probably. And then, obviously, live stream for qualifying. And I'm going to do some F2 bits as well, like I did last weekend. So I'll probably stream Friday qualifying for F2, because I like doing that. That's good fun. But yeah, so thank you for watching. Hope you like my stuff. Appreciate you taking the time. Thank you to everyone who donated as well and joined Friends of Tomo, £2 a month. Get on it if you wanna support. So thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day. Take care. Be nice to each other. And I will see you in video on Wednesday, live stream Friday. Goodbye. Ciao. Adios. Grazie ragazzi. All that good stuff. Farewell, my friends.